Welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy,
where we're expanding the conversation around Catholic sexuality.
I'm Ellen.
And I'm Kathleen.
Welcome to the show. Hello, and welcome back to another Charting Toward Intimacy episode. I'm Ellen.
I'm Kathleen.
And today we're going to be talking about kind of tips for living throughout your menstrual cycle or your entire fertility cycle. And this isn't, we're not like talking like cycle syncing level. We're not going to be talking about like exercise or like changing your work schedule and stuff like that. We're just kind of talking about like everyday things that we do and maybe suggestions for things that we don't do but could implement. That
or things that we should do, but don't.
Things we should do. That, you know, just to kind of like make life easier.
Yeah.
In the different phases of the cycle or capitalize on the different phases of the cycle.
Yeah.
But before we jump into that, we have a new segment for the podcast where we're going to be answering listener questions at the beginning of each episode. So we're going to pick a question from our open question box to answer at the beginning of every episode. And then at the end of each month, I'm going to be taking all of the questions that were submitted that month, and I will be recording a video with answers to all of those. And that will be available in the Charting Toward Intimacy exclusive community. So if you want to see, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited. Yeah. I get lots of questions coming in from Instagram and email. I get text message questions from friends. And, you know, I think a lot of these questions other people have too. And so there is a link in the show notes. If you've got a question, put it in that open question box. Or if you ask a question via Instagram or something like that, I'm probably going to start putting those into this grouping instead of typing out individual answers every single time. Because girl, I don't have time for that anymore, you guys.
Who does, honestly?
I just don't.
Who's got time?
So just know that if you do ask me a question via Instagram and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to move this to my open question box and put it in here. Yeah. It's not anything against you. It's, I need to have time off of social media.
Exactly. We all do. Everybody does.
All right. So this week's question is an awesome one. Is it morally illicit to have sex with a period disc in? So the big answer here is yes. A period disc is not a contraceptive tool, but just some food for thought. I think this is something that you should communicate about with your spouse and ask God what he thinks, because the period disc still does have a physical barrier to it. Because it has a physical barrier and because it does trap the blood coming down through the cervix, we know that it does have a seal of some sort. And so probably the main reason why it is not marketed as a contraceptive is because its percentage is probably somewhere between 50 and 60% or potentially lower. And so it's just not high enough for them to market it as a contraceptive. So basically what I'm saying is like, it will block sperm from reaching the vagina. It will block
maybe
some.
Not all sperm, but
not all. Yeah.
Right.
Again, it's like, it's not a contraceptive, but I think it's just important to recognize that there is still a barrier to a period disc, and and that like that's just something to bring to prayer. You know, I don't want to introduce this to kind of introduce like this scrupulosity into anybody, but it's important to understand how these things work, and you know, make sure that you're doing what God wants you to do.
Yeah.
All right. It's a great question.
That was a good question. That was great. I remember when they first came out, that was a big question that a lot of people were asking. So yeah, it's a good one to have clarified.
Yes. Okay. So, we're going to walk through the cycle, starting with menstruation, and just kind of talk about some things that we do, to kind of support ourselves during that time.
Yeah.
All right. So menstruation.
Menstruation.
A couple of days, maybe about a week, somewhere.
Most fun part of the cycle. Yeah.
Right. I think one of the big things that I do is I only work out if I am definitely feeling good. Like I try to work out like 3 to 5 times a week. But on my period, like I really honestly ask myself, like, can I do this? And sometimes what I'll do too is like my working out is little shout out to Healthy Catholic Moms, Brittany Pearson. She's amazing, you guys. I love her. I'm part of her monthly group, so I get like workout plans every month with full videos. This is totally an ad for Brittany. I love her.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I am not like affiliated, like, I'm not getting any money from this. I just think you should check her out. She does like beginner challenges where she teaches you about macro eating and weightlifting and stuff like that. And so it's a lot of like weightlifting work that I do. And so when I'm on my period, I'm very honest with myself of whether or not I can handle that. And so sometimes too, I'll even just like drop the weight down, and like still do the workout, but just do it. Like all I'm trying to do is just get my body moving at that time. I do find that that's really helpful is on my period. If I can not lounge around on the couch all day, that's ideal.
Yeah. See, I'm a little bit more of the opposite. Not that I lounge around on the couch all day. I've got 5 kids, so I literally couldn't even do that if I wanted to. But, I will say that I give myself more grace when I am on my period than I normally do the rest of my cycle. I am somebody who, like, to my detriment, right? Like I feel like I need to be productive all the time and it's hard to keep up with. But when I am on my period, it's just kind of like, you know what? Like you deserve this rest. Just allow yourself this time to rest and don't worry about being productive. So I'll like let my mornings go a little bit longer. I'll like snuggle the kids on the couch. We'll like watch shows and stuff, just like allowing the rest to sort of act also as, just like quality time with my kids where it's not just kind of like go, go, go. And, like everyone do this. All right. We need to get this done today. It's just like, you know what, let's all just chill out. Let's just chill out. So that's kind of, that's the biggest thing I do. I think
I will say that like
that phase.
Typically on my period too, during menstruation, like we don't really leave the house in like a big way. So like, I'm not going to take the kids to the zoo on one of those days. I'm not going to take them to the children's museum. We might go to a park, but like maybe like we live right across the street from a park. Like we'll go to that park.
Yeah. That's exactly
or
right.
like we have like a weekly play group that we do. And so like, I'll go to that still. Because that's like more about me than the kids. Honestly, I need to talk to those moms.
That's so true.
Stay home mom life.
So true.
But yeah, I think, just being like honest with yourself about like what your body needs.
What you can handle and what you can't. And the fact that you can't handle it all at that time is okay. Like that's good. It's like a built in, it's almost like the Sabbath, right? Like if we're looking at our cycle, like it is our cyclical Sabbath. We just allow ourselves the time to rest. It's so important to recoup, to rejuvenate, because there's plenty of time coming up for us to do work for the rest of our cycle.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So then as we round the corner into that follicular phase, often I personally find that like I'm a little lower energy still those couple of days after my period. Like my body hasn't like kicked into total follicular phase gear yet. And so, I'm definitely feeling better. I'll kind of like jump back onto anything that was put on pause during my period. Or also like things that might've been put on pause during like my luteal phase. I'll focus more on like chores and making sure that kind of everything on the to-do list gets done. But just like that immediately after my period, I'm not just like, let's hit the ground running and do everything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You definitely do have to ease into it. Which is, again, that's part of my problem. I'm bad at easing back into it. It's like, okay, here we go. Let's just full force, get the things done, do the things, I'm really bad at that. I'm going to say honestly, in follicular phase, I don't honor my follicular phase as I should.
Yeah. But then as sure. Your follicular phase continues and you get kind of like closer to ovulation. So now in my personal cycle, and I have a pretty standard cycle somewhere around like 29 days roughly. So we're looking just a couple of days after my period. That's just like still not quite energy. And then sort of like in that next week, like week 2 of my cycle, then I feel like I am firing on all cylinders. Like that's how I personally feel. Like I'm just like, this is how I'm supposed to feel.
This is what it's like. Yeah, this is what it's like.
And so like during that time, I will really put a focus on like any projects that I have been like putting off. So whether that is Kathleen and I right now are trying to declutter our houses. So like currently that project is Kathleen's kind of laughing probably because she's like, I haven't actually started.
Nope, I haven't. Why? Because I'm a procrastinator. Because I struggle with organization and many other things that are keeping me from starting.
This is almost like a get to know Kathleen and Ellen throughout the cycle episode. Maybe that's what we should title it.
Oh, Kathleen just struggles all cycle long, every cycle. That's the short abbreviated get to know Kathleen here. She's just on the struggle bus.
But yeah, like I try to really like focus on projects. So, for example, my last follicular phase, I powered through like a course that's been taking me forever. I wrote 2 finals. So one for one course, one for another course. I know, right? I powered through some projects that have been sitting around for a long time. I got 100% on one of my finals too.
Oh, good job. Proud of you.
Boom. So yeah, I really I kind of take an assessment of, okay, what's like been going on? Have I been like trying to do this like craft project for the kids or something? Like this would be a great time to do that. Or is there some project like for work that I've been trying to do, or something around the house, or, a lot of times like I'll try to like up the ante on some chores and like, maybe this is a really good time too, to start a new habit is in that follicular phase, because you're most likely to like continue it. And so you'll get like the ball rolling for a couple of weeks.
That's a good point.
So like if you've been wanting to initiate the habit of, say, maybe you sweep the floors every night. Let's say that's a good one. I don't have that habit currently.
Me either. Nope.
That would be like, it'd be great to start trying to do that in the follicular phase, because you're going to have the most like kind of energy to keep the ball rolling. So yeah, that's my follicular phase, is really just I try to utilize that energy. And sometimes too, I will, if I have something I need to get done that doesn't like have a specific, deadline on it, I will actually push it to my follicular phase. Yeah. If that's possible.
That's a great thing to do. Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I don't do any of those things during my follicular phase.
Okay, I don't want to say that to like make it sound like I'm just like this perfect human being who like always gets my house sparkling clean during my follicular phase. That's not the case. I'm just like, this is like my brain process I killed it during my last follicular phase, right? Like I finished 2 classes. Well,
here's what I think. Like I notice very particular changes in my behaviors and personalities and my approaches during menstruation and during ovulation, and probably during my luteal phase too. Follicular phase is like a mystery to me. I don't really get it, but I also struggle, like I've been saying, I struggle to see my energy, like from an outside perspective, changing, right? And my habits and tendencies changing from phase to phase. I like apply things like as if I'm a man, where just everything, right? Like everything should be equal all the time. This is like the goal, right? This is what I should just be doing. And we'll have like menstruation where I can take a little bit of a relax, but the rest of the time, like I should just be the same. And I struggle to see those changes go. But I think this is a really good conversation to have because I know I'm not the only one out there that does this. Okay. And I think it's really important for us to start paying attention to the way, and I know in my head, like mentally, I know, right? Like intellectually, I know that we have energy changes and all this kind of stuff. It's the practical application of applying it to my own life. It's like, I always look at things as like, oh yeah, that's great in general for like everybody, just not for me, right? Like, I just like, that's not how I work, right? I need things simple and a standard expectation, not much change. Like, but that's like not effective for me either. Right. So I think it's a really good thing to have this discussion so that those of us who do sort of give ourselves a one single expectation for our entire cycle can figure out and learn how to adjust that.
Yeah. I think expectations that's the right word, is like measured expectations of these different phases, and recognizing that like in that follicular phase, and we'll kind of talk about ovulation next, which me personally, I don't see a huge difference between like kind of that late follicular phase and ovulation, is recognizing that like your expectations of yourself can be really high. I think a lot of times we place our expectations of ourselves incredibly high, and we think about it like a man, right? And so we expect a lot of ourselves all the time. This is that phase of your cycle that you actually can expect a lot of yourself. You can place those expectations at an appropriately high level, but then you need to reduce those expectations of yourself and recognize that things change in the other parts of your cycle.
Yes, absolutely.
So ovulation, I mean, ovulation for me, it's still kind of in that same zone of that like late follicular. Like I'm still like feeling quite a bit of energy. And again, like you can't really like pinpoint ovulation day. So it's not like I'm ever like, oh, today I have so much energy, this must be ovulation day. Like for me, it kind of that same high level of like, let's work on things, let's set the expectations high. Like that kind of goes through to, you know, I chart with symptothermal. So it goes through to like the first 1 to 2 days of high temperature. Like when I'm starting to see the signs of like, I have ovulated, like that's when I also start to see that energy level drop. When it's time to kind of start changing gears of expectations.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think for me, I notice the changes once my ovulatory phase opens, right? So that ovulation window where I start seeing fertile mucus, all that kind of stuff, right? I feel and can sense the increase in estrogen. I do finally feel more energetic, right? I feel like, okay, like it's a very obvious energy shift where I can get more done. I can prioritize a little bit better, but I do also get a lot more anxious in my ovulatory phase, which is something that estrogen does. Estrogen is a stimulate. It's like, it's kind of like the, what the heck is the word I'm looking for? It's a very basic word, but it does. It produces and stimulates and, you know, does all of these things.
Are you trying to say it's an upper?
And
like it's an upper
well,
instead of a downer?
It's like, that's not the word I'm thinking of, but yeah, it is an upper. It's an upper and it brings everything up. Right. including anxiety. So I do notice that I get more anxious, and even though I'm more productive, which like is good for my mental health, I also like tend to catastrophize a little bit more when I'm in my ovulatory phase. And so it's helpful to know that I'm in my ovulatory phase, because I can always fall back on that and say, okay, relax. This is it. Like, you're not thinking logically or clearly. This is the result of high levels of estrogen. Right. So that's really helpful for me personally and mental health wise. But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I do feel that energy shift. It's probably one of the greatest for me, even though I am more anxious, because I can like actually do a lot of things
right
in a day, which is great. But then just like you said, once you start seeing, once you do ovulate, it takes only a couple days for you to really feel that energy shift yet again.
Right.
Pretty drastically into the, I just want to sleep all the time now.
Estrogen drops pretty suddenly.
Yeah.
And then progesterone rises not quite as like drastically, but it rises pretty quickly. And so you've kind of got this like swing. And that withdrawal of estrogen is what kind of brings that energy level down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So luteal phase. For me, I made a joke to Kathleen. The worst time to go to confession for me is like right before my luteal phase, because I have the world's shortest fuse during my luteal phase. And it's like, dang it, I gotta go right back. Like, are you kidding me?
So funny.
So it would really behoove me to go to confession on a monthly basis, like right around my period. That would be a much better time.
Yep. You have a lot more time before you have to go back.
Then I wouldn't feel like I need to turn right back around the next week. Anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
So
love that.
For me, this has taken me years to kind of figure out a system that works for me during the luteal phase. So during the luteal phase, I notice I've got lower energy, but energy is not the main factor here. My fuse is so short. I cannot stand things that my kids do. Like, and I want everything to be spotless. I want the house to be clean. I just like, and I get really annoyed and angry and sometimes yell when like things aren't clean. And I'm like, how do we live like this? I can't believe we live like this. Whereas the previous like 2 weeks, I lived like that with no issues.
And I'm super chill about it.
And I'm super chill about it.
I'm never chill about it.
I get into the luteal phase and I'm just like, I can't believe that we don't sweep our floors every night. This is ridiculous. Using that same example, right? So here's what I do. One of the things as a stay-at-home mom, and I know not everyone who listens is a stay-at-home mom, but I think you can apply these principles to whatever kind of work you do, is I need to make sure that I've got like a skeleton plan for the day. And for me, it's really helpful to do to get out of the house and do something kind of like bigger, like take the kids to the zoo or like a children's museum or like a new park or something that like, actually, I'm going to caveat that new thing. It's better for me to do things I know and have tried before, but I know that like will take up a lot of time, right? Going to the zoo, like that's like, I mean, that's going to take my whole morning. And then all we have to do is like get home, eat something and go to rest time. Like, boom, we just used up almost the entire day. Things that like really take up a lot of time and maybe take a little bit less energy for me parenting wise, right? So the zoo, it's like, there's like all these exciting things for my kids to look at. I don't have to play cruise director. Like I just take them there and then I just make sure they don't climb on everything, right? Except in the playground area of our zoo. They can climb on whatever they want there. So giving myself like a skeleton plan to where the worst days for me in my luteal phase are when I like kids and I get up and we eat breakfast and we're just sort of sitting around and the kids get into something and I get frustrated and like the
100%.
day just drags and drags and drags and I'm yelling more and more and more. And, you know, so I think the same principle could be applied, like if you work, is like, give yourself something exciting to look forward to in that luteal phase. Maybe there's a meeting that you love. And like, maybe you can like schedule that meeting, or maybe like, a client that you like to communicate with, you like to talk with that client, like schedule a check-in for sometime during the luteal phase. Or like schedule like lunch out with your coworkers during the luteal phase, like something to look forward to that makes those days not just like drag on and on and on.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I find that I tend to do the same thing. First of all, I am much more tired in my luteal phase. And that makes sense because that is what progesterone does, right? Like it's a relaxant.
Right. And your body thinks it's pregnant. Like your body is preparing for the possibility of a pregnancy. So it's putting a lot of effort into building up that endometrium, layer. Like there's literally less blood going to your brain during the luteal phase.
It's not building it up, but it's nourishing it.
Thank you.
It's in a secretory
It's already
phase.
been built up.
Correct. Estrogen built it up, but progesterone really nourishes it. It creates these secretory glands that fill it with nutrients and all of these things.
It's making it full.
Exactly. It's making it a very hospitable environment for a potential embryo to implant. But so I find that my energy is a little bit lower, not a little bit, it's a lot lower. I feel a lot more tired. And just like you're saying, because of that, I am a lot less patient. And this is typically the time in my cycle where my husband loves telling people this, that I will stomp around the house screaming and yelling that I'm going to throw everything away, every single thing away.
Yes, we are so similar. Like I can't stand the state of our house when I'm in my luteal phase. I'm like, I know. Like this?
We were literally over at Friends the other night, and Michael did like he did like the impression of me stomping around. And it is wild. I was like, you know what though? He's not wrong. I do that. I do that a lot. But typically during the luteal phase, when it's just like, I just can't stand this place anymore. And I do find that it's so much easier to take the kids out. We went to, we have about 40 minutes away, we have a shrine to Padre Pio. Oh, so a few weeks ago before we went on vacation, we did that. It's like right by my in-laws' house actually, but we went to the Padre Pio shrine. We walked around, we packed a charcuterie like lunch. We had like picnic there and then went into the shrine, prayed, like looked at everything. They have a little museum to Padre Pio, like all these things. So we just like spent the day doing that and it was awesome. Yeah. And then it gave me the idea. There's like, within an hour drive of us, there's like at least 4 or 5 good shrines. Nice. So I was like, man, we got to like keep this in mind for the rest of the summer. Like, maybe take like a shrine a week or something like that. So yeah.
Or focus on them during the luteal phase.
Or just focus on them during the luteal phase. Exactly. Right. So yeah. So doing some big day trip like that, like you're saying, like get out of the house for hours and, just do something fun is really, really important during that time.
I think like I agree with fun is really important too. Like if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're like, going to the zoo is the most boring thing you could think of. Like maybe you just like really aren't into the zoo. I love the zoo. I kind of freak out when I go to the zoo. But like, I'm thinking like somebody listening is probably like, why would I ever take my kids to the zoo? That sounds awful. Like something that would be fun for you, like maybe taking kids to the pool would be fun, or like going to a shrine, or or maybe like going to a movie, like take everybody to go to a movie theater.
A good idea,
like,
yeah.
You probably have to have kind of older kids to do that, because I could not imagine taking my kids to a movie theater.
Yeah, that's very true.
Like something to look forward to. I think planning a date night with your spouse during this time is really great, because again, it's like, it's something to look forward to. It's something that could be really fun.
And because if you're avoiding pregnancy, you can come home and just totally have sex and not worry about it.
Right?
Luteal phase win.
One caveat on, like doing big things is, recognize your energy level. Like, this isn't something I don't every single day of my luteal phase, like take the kids to the zoo. That'd be a lot, but like giving yourself like a skeleton plan, and like something to get you out of the house. Maybe even it's just as simple as like throwing everybody in the car and going to like the Starbucks drive-through. Yes. Right. Wouldn't that be fun? That would be something really fun.
Oh yeah. Going out to ice cream. Ice cream is a big thing over
go
here.
out to ice cream. Planning something fun. But another little caveat on that is, if it's something brand new that you're trying to do by yourself during the luteal phase, like maybe take stock of if you have patience for that or not. If it's the kind of thing where you're not going to know where to park and you're going to have to figure that out, and you maybe don't love driving in a big city and you're trying to take them to the city for the day, like, maybe just like try something new in the follicular phase. And then once you're comfortable and you know where to park and which streets to avoid because they're really crowded, like just be careful of that. Cause I think, I know I've gotten myself into trouble with that of like, let's go do something new. And then I just get super frustrated because I'm like, I can't believe I didn't realize I had to pay for parking. I don't even know where's the best spot to park, those kind of things. They really like stress me out. And we're trying to lower the stress.
Exactly. Exactly. All good points.
Yeah. I think too, then as you kind of round out the luteal phase and come back into menstruation, is when your brain has the most capacity, we've talked about this in a previous episode, to have a nothing box. It has the most capacity. Now it's like, it's not perfect.
Right.
You have the most capacity to be reflective, and kind of just like open. So that is a really good time to maybe go to adoration, do some journaling. These are not things I do.
They're things I wish I did.
Right. These are things I'm hoping to maybe implement at some point. But reflecting on your, previous cycle, this actually would be a great time to go to confession, because you could kind of like do a nice deep examination of conscience from the previous, like the whole cycle. Like instead of going to confession on a monthly basis, like go on a cyclical basis, whatever that is for you. Like go during menstruation or something. Or like directly after or something. And so that like your body is the most primed and your brain is the most primed to kind of be reflecting, because progesterone's low and estrogen is low. And those are two, like, I don't know, they're kind of like buzzy hormones. They make a lot of things happen. And they're both really low during those first couple of days of your cycle. And so everything can feel a lot like chiller and calmer. So that's kind of my last.
That makes a ton of sense.
As you round out the cycle and move into the next one, that can be a good thing to end with, if you can. Like, we're not perfect.
Far from. Yeah.
So I hope this has helped you. This is just kind of like how we have started to kind of recognize our cycles and like live through them and with them, and being gentle with yourself during those times that you need to, and, upping the ante when you can, and just recognizing that like, you're not a man. You're not going to be able to do the exact same thing every day of a month. But you can work smarter around your cycle.
Yeah. And it can be a work in progress, you know, it
Yes.
doesn't have to.
Right. Don't try to implement
Just
like every single thing.
recognize everything at one time. Exactly. A small, slow work in progress is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening. If you are not already following us on Instagram, be sure to check us out at Charting Toward Intimacy. And if you listen to podcasts on a platform that gives you the option to rate or review, we'd love for you to do that because it helps us spread the word about the podcast. If you ever have questions, comments, or episode topic ideas, please reach out to us. We love to hear from you. You can reach out on Instagram or send us an email. Our email is in the show notes. Until next time.